Hello guys, I'll be kind of like explaining my Undertale or Joseph Tale multiverse. So that was inspired by this community post made by Lazy Can Gotcha. So I'll be creating you, I guess, in a way. Also, this isn't scripted, so sorry if I go off time to time. Oh yeah. First, let's explain my Underswap Sands or Blueberry. There were basically Joseph, who is basically, well, not a god, switched up some data from the original Underswap and made Blueberry into a okay, so in the original Underswap, Papyrus, or, oh god. So in Undertale, we don't know if Papyrus knows about timelines or not. Though, if you go into Sin's room and walk on this, Papyrus will say if Sin's perking you from time and space, which kinda has that evidence that Papyrus would probably know about timelines. Though, of course, I will make Papyrus a bean in my multiverse. Oh god, I carried a known multiverse. Let's move on to the name of my so-called multiverse. Well, two multiverses inside of a multiverse. Josephverse is basically if Joseph was an underverse. So to not confuse the Josephverse and Joseph's Undertale multiverse, I'll be calling Joseph's Undertale multiverse Josephverse. Yeah, two verses. I know, it's pretty weird. Now let's move on to a dream / nightmare. Corrupted Nightmare's name is actually Nox, since he's technically separate from Passive Nightmare. He's probably just dead to the bone, breaking all his bones. Which is a turn to Corrupted Nightmare, or Nox. I'll still be calling him Corrupted Nightmare, but from time to time, Joseph will probably call him Nox by accident. Or purposefully. Dream. Oh boy. How can Dream be sad most of the time? Dream is basically positivity. He can't really have negativity most of the time, or they will just get stronger. Also, how does one slap make a nightmare cry? He's basically the king of negativity. Will a slap do nothing to him? Also, he's literally goop. It's literally just slapping water. Ink. Oh boy. How can he be a yonder, or how can he be depressed? Ink is the creator, not creator, protector of AUs. People get that mixed up. So he's just protector, not creator. He just helps with the character design, characters and stuff. Okay, Ink. He doesn't really have a vial that says yonder mode. So it can't really be a yonder in my multiverse. Well, two multiverses. I'll just say multiverse for now. Also, depression. Look, depression isn't a joke, but wouldn't Ink have a separate vial that has, depression in there. But he doesn't have a bottle like that, so, well, for now. So he can't really feel depressed. Also, he's literally up Sans, or not Sans, because he's technically not a Sans, because he's doesn't really have an AU of his own, because, well, kinda oofed himself. As a monster with no soul, he has to rely on vials / paint. Next, move on to my version of Error. In my multiverse / version of Error, Error is just a different version of Gino in my version of those events. And Error doesn't remember any of his time being Gino. So he's just a separate version of Gino. And, other stuff. Now let's explain Joseph for a moment. Joseph is technically in the Bad Sons, though not fully, as he is a leader in his own squad that has some members of the Bad Sons. You probably already know who they are. But if you don't, they are as follows: Horror, Killer, and Dust. Of course, himself. Nightmare still counts Joseph as being in the Bad Sons, though. And since Joseph doesn't really have a father figure, Nightmare is technically his father figure. Yeah, I know this doesn't make any sense, though Joseph's technically like 20 or something in a ghost age. Though he's technically actually 12, but his undertale age is 14 before he died. I know this is pretty confusing. I've been recording this for more than 7 minutes. Let's move on to the 2 other characters that I've made. Not made, but put into Gacha Club. Let's move into them. First of all, Cloud Strife. He isn't my character. He's a character from a company called Square Enix, or Squaresoft. And he's from a game called Final Fantasy VII. And if you don't know what that is, search it up, because I'm not going into the complexity of the Final Fantasy VII compilation. Next, Vivi or Teeny. Vivi is basically 9 years old in the events of his own game. Not his game, but Final Fantasy IX. So he can't really date anyone since he's literally a child. Also, on the Final Fantasy games, they aren't sequels to each other. They're basically different universes on each other, but they do have references to other games from time to time. Yeah, and if you're wondering how Vivi got into the mess with the Joseph Versiverse, basically, of course, since Joseph was once an actual human that lives on Earth in his memory, he, of course, liked Final Fantasy. And, of course, Vivi was one of his favorite characters from that series. So he just remembered to put him in that mess. Basically the same thing with Cloud. Yeah, I don't know. Okay. Now let's explain my Dusttail. My version of Dusttail. My version of Dusttail is, well, either not very complex or complex, if you think about it. So my version of Dusttail, or just the Dusttail. Yes, I'm very unoriginal with these names. My version of Dusttail is basically as follows. Since, or Dusttail Sans killed most of the underground. Not all of them. Like for Papyrus, for instance. Technically, Dirk Joseph killed Papyrus for him, as, Joseph can control people / monsters. And of course, separately, Dirk Joseph killed Asgore, and somehow Gaster too. And of course, since there has to be a Dusttail Geno, since Geno is technically just Sans from another timeline, had to see all those genocide runs probably really made him really upset. So of course there probably is a Joseph Dusttail Geno out there. Though I haven't created him yet due to laziness. Now let's move on to the Joseph was in My Hero Academia. I won't finish that for a probably while because of other work that I have to do, such as if my favorite songs were did my classes and other memes. So yeah, I'll be adding future characters that are from Final Fantasy 7 and 9, for instance, Dawn and Garnet, and of course other people from the Final Fantasy 7 trilogy, not trilogy, but compilation, just Sephiroth and Zack, and of course Cloud's. And let's move on to the chips for the Final Fantasy, for those two Final Fantasy titles. I won't be doing any ships for now. I know. Technically, Final Fantasy 9 being Gacha Club is technically original. Since if I search up Gacha Final Fantasy 9, let's just know that. You only see the actual games. Actually, except for this. Kuja's in there, so not original, but other characters from those series, just EV, are technically original since, yeah. Wait a second. Why does Kadaja? I can't, never mind. Also, if you don't know who Kadaj is, he's basically a version of Sephiroth that was in the Final Fantasy 7 compilation for a movie called... I'll just let this explain it for you. Yes, this movie had Kadaj in it. I don't know how to spell Kadaj, so... Oh god, I actually spelled it correctly. Basically, Kadaj is the primary antagonist of the apparently novel, and the secondary antagonist to a movie of Final Fantasy VII as in children. I won't spoil much, since, it's a movie. But of course, it has connections to Sephiroth. Aside from this 15-minute video. Oh god, that's on my search history now. See you guys later, and sorry for the 15-minute video.